Let's bring in our man Keith Smith. He wrote a great article over on Spotract that really laid out why De'Aaron Fox passed on that 2-year, $100+ million extension that Chris Haynes wrote about a couple of days ago. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. Love your writing. Always love talking to you. Curious your thoughts 21 games into the season on this version of the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I think they're about where I expected. They're clearly they're not catching anybody by surprise anymore. No one is like, oh, same old Kings. Like there's none of that, right? Everybody now knows this is a good team, and if you don't show up ready to play, they're going to beat you. And I think now is the question becomes, can they adjust to that and still get wins? And I think they're doing pretty well with it. It's been a little bumpy. They've had some guys in and out of the lineup that's caused some of the unevenness, but now that everybody's back, it seems like they're starting to find a little bit of groove, and they're playing well. They're here. They're a playoff team now, and that's kind of where we're at.
Keith, where did you going into the season? Just like, what did you think about the Kings? Did they still have to show you something as far as being looked at as a playoff team, or were you convinced that's who they were going to be this year and they could do a little bit more this year, like maybe Western Conference Finals type team? Like, what did you think about them before you saw them this year?
Yeah, hey, I'm not riding the fence here, but it's a little bit of all of that, right? Like I thought that they would be a playoff team again. I didn't know if they'd have home court advantage. Just the West is so tough and it's so deep with good teams that I thought it was going to be a fight for them to get into the top half of the playoff teams. But I thought that they had a chance, and then I still think and believe now and believe then that if things break right, they could maybe make the Western Conference Finals run. I think they've got enough talent. The big question was going to be, can they sustain the success of last year? And so far, so good. And then my next question was, are they going to defend a little bit better? And now the odd thing is they have defended a little bit better this year, and the offense has slipped a little bit, but I think the offense will get back together. And if they can sustain that better defense, then, the future is really bright for them for the rest of this year and moving forward.
The great thing about that, Keith, is one of the reasons that the Kings have taken a step forward defensively is because of the individual you wrote about a couple of days ago, and that's De'Aaron Fox. Mike Brown called him the best two-way guard in the league. What do you see in De'Aaron's game? Really, we'll just focus on the last 2 years because it feels like he obviously took that massive step last year where he was with winning players and a winning franchise and a winning coach, and somehow, at least through 21 games this year, has managed to take another massive step forward.
Yeah, I think the big thing is all of the stuff in his game that was so speed-based before, that's all still there, but there's so much more than that now. There's no longer get the ball and just head down and I'm going to fly up the floor and I'll figure it out when I get, to the other end. Now it is, I can still do that if I need to, but more often than not, I'm going to take it a little slower. I'm going to let things develop, and then I'm going to get you. And I think he's become such a good, smart, crafty player with the way he plays, whether that be, setting himself up or setting up his teammates. I've noticed in the statistics backed it up, he's eliminated a lot of the bad shots from his shot profile. He doesn't take those long twos anymore. A lot of those long pull-ups are out of his game. Those have turned into pull-up three-pointers now. It's crazy the difference just a foot or two makes, but it makes all the difference in the world, and he's knocking them down at a career best clip, both in terms of volume and accuracy. So that's been huge. And then I'm glad you called out the defense, because for years it's kind of been, you have all the tools. Why are you not a better defender? You should be getting after it. And I think for him, I think he's now finally kind of put it all together of, hey, if I want to be the player I want to be, and more importantly, we want to be the team we want to be, I got to bring it on both ends. And I'm this team's leader. I got to show it. And he really is getting it after it defensively, using that speed and quickness to make life tough on a lot of guys. It's been really fun to watch his progression kind of grow over the last few years into a guy now who I think is, any question you're having about the best guards in the league, he better be on your short list.
Talk about it.
Keith, just because you watch the league, you see, everybody. I'm with Mike Brown. I think he's the best two-way point guard in the game. But who are some of those other guys on that list? Is it a long list? Because the only two people that come to my mind really are SGA and Drew Holiday. I think Fox is on another level, slightly. I mean, same level, but I put them ahead of him because number one, he scores at a 30-point per game clip, but then he's also guarding the other team's best point guard, which is something that you don't see a lot in this league. But who are some of those other guys that might be on that same tier with him?
Yeah, you mentioned two of them in SGA and Drew Holiday. I would put, he's not there as the scoring threat, but Derek White is really, really good too. And I think Derek White's the guy, if Boston needed him to score more, he would. They just don't need that. They've got plenty of other guys who can do it. Now, when guys have been out of the lineup or things have kind of gone sideways, he has stepped up and scored more. But yeah, I think, De'Aaron Fox, with the way he's playing on both ends, with that, it's a little weird because I still don't know where we classify Devin Booker right now, because he's kind of a point guard now, I guess, and he's really filling that role. But he has really improved his defense too, to a level where there was a point when he came in, it's like, all right, this guy's going to be just kind of a shooter-scorer type, and now he's really rounded out his game nicely. But that's kind of it, right? That's the company. And if the company you're keeping is a whole bunch of all-star and all-NBA level guys, that's pretty good company for De'Aaron Fox to be in.
Well, with that said, Keith, let's talk money. This is what you wrote about a couple of days ago. You laid out a variety of different scenarios for De'Aaron Fox, including the scenario he said thanks to and no thanks to. How do you think this winds up playing out for De'Aaron Fox and his long-term future with the Sacramento Kings?
Yeah, it's funny, when the report broke that he turned that down, and I thought Chris Haynes did a good job of basically trying to say, hey, he turned it down, but he didn't turn it down because he wants to leave. Like, he turned it down because he wants to make a lot more money. Mm-hmm. But anybody turns down a contract, instantly the rumor mill starts of they want out, they want to go somewhere else, and they want to take off. And that's certainly not the case. So I think, as we look at this with De'Aaron Fox, I think what's ultimately going to happen here is if this year continues to go for him and the team the way it has, he's probably going to be an all-NBA player. Now, it's going to be interesting with the new all-NBA rules where it's positionless. Does that help get more guards on the team? Does that hurt guards getting on the team? Like, we can't just say, well, you got to be one of the best 6 guards in the league, and that's how it goes. We now got to look at it and say, all right, no, there's got to be definitely, a position where it's got to be, you got to be one of the best 15 guys. And I think there's a chance he gets there. If he gets there, he's going to get, I would imagine, from the Kings, a 4-year offer at the Supermax at 35%, which would put him, at 4 new years added on to his contract. And that puts him at, about 270-ish in 270 million, I should be clear about, in new money after the 2 years left on his current deal. That's similar to what happened with Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker. Oddly enough, 2 other Kentucky guys that signed their contracts as soon as they were eligible. The good news for both Fox and the Kings is if he doesn't make it this year, he's got a little bit more of a window where he could make it next year and be eligible for the extension. Or if he doesn't make it then, he's got 1 more year to play out on his current contract after that. And if he gets there, he could get eligible then. And then that would be a 5-year deal, which would be worth, almost $350 million in total new money. So that's the kind of, world we're talking about that De'Aaron Fox is looking at. And that's why all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I get why he turned down 2 years, $100 million.
It's going to make Shohei Ohtani look like a sucker when this is all over.
So, Keith, if I'm hearing all this right, I want to make sure I'm following you. This is not a situation like Jaylen Brown last year where he kind of it was last year do or die. Fox has about 2 or 3 years to reach the threshold he needs to make the big extension, and when he does that, that's when he's probably a little more likely to sign the deal. But he's got, like, from what I heard you, about 3 seasons, including this one, before he has to play with.
Yeah, he's got this year and each of the next 2 years to kind of qualify for that, what everybody calls the Supermax, that 35% tier. So if he makes it in any of the next, couple years here, he will be eligible for that as long as he makes all NBA. And, I don't want to, put a cap on it. I'm fairly confident he's not winning Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know that an MVP is probably going to be in play. That's, you're talking real heady competition there. Maybe he gets there. But all NBA, that's certainly there. And from a contract standpoint, that, qualifies him for all the same stuff. So I think, there is a good chance we see him, whether that be this year and then he signs the extension, or he says, and I'm going to, I'm going to play it out. Or if he doesn't make it, like you said, he gets 2 more cracks at it and then he has a chance. So I think we're going to see this come one way or another in the next couple of years. It's just a matter of, does he get those postseason accolades that he needs to get?
The absolute best breakdown on De'Aaron Fox's contract status was from Keith.
100%.
Go out of your way to read this.
Can I ask Keith one more question?
Sure.
We're talking De'Aaron Fox. We love De'Aaron Fox. This is the franchise. But another guy we love here in Sacramento is Malik Monk. We love Malik Monk. There's people already stressing out over whether or not the Kings will be able to re-sign him next season, because I think of some of the early bird rights or whatever the terminology is. Number one, what do you think the Kings will be able to offer? And number two, what do you think the market might be for Malik Monk this summer?
Yeah, that's the tricky part of only having him on a 2-year deal. With the way they got him, and for in all NBA terms, it's a low money deal because he's making under $10 million. Mm-hmm. So your question becomes, can you get him back for a contract that's only going to be slightly more than the non-taxpayer mid-level? That projects out for next year to be about $13 million. The Kings can offer right around that number. My question would be is, for Malik Monk, is another team, the team with cap space, going to come in with something in the range of 20-ish million a season? Because then at that point, you're running the risk you're probably going to lose them. If the other option is, if there's a chance, nobody's going to come in with that, or does Malik Monk, has he found his place? And it feels like he has, right? It feels like Sacramento is where he's done his best work. I know he's close with Fox and all of that. So the other option would be, hey, we're going to do what Bobby Portis did with the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to sign you to a 1-year deal, probably, or a 2-year deal with a player option for the most we can give you. Then we got your bird rights, and then we got you taken care of a year from now. So that's something that I think is probably very much in play for Malik Monk, is signs the 1-year or 1+1 contract. Then he's a free agent again after next season. But then the Kings have his full bird rights, and then they can pay him whatever they feel the full rate is. And it might even be, hey, you could have got 20. We'll give you 25, 30, because that feels a little bit better for where we're taking care of you. And I think Sacramento's starting to get a reputation with this front office, this ownership group now of, hey, if you come here and do right by us, we're going to do right by you. Harrison Barnes is a good example. Fox got the max extension he could get then, and they took care of Domantas Sabonis through the renegotiation and extension. So I would say the chances of them retaining him is pretty high. It just may be a little bit of a path to get there.
This team's going to cost $1 billion by the time we're done with it.
Well, the cap's going up.
Oh, cap's going up. TV money. In-season tournament, baby. Brought to you by Apple TV.
Expansion's coming.
Keith, we appreciate you, man. You're one of the best. Always love talking to you. Thanks for joining with us.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Keith.